Oh, I almost started singing a song. Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, November the 7th. 5:42 p.m. I am feeling good. I have been doing a lot of work to organize myself to prepare for this next stage, this next phase in my life. Today is and was. I had a couple conversations with some potential clients today that were very fruitful. There were some conversations that was filled with pontification. There were other conversations that were filled with action. One thing that I do want to speak about is how do I want to say this? I had a conversation today with a client that I had met from Upwork, actually, and it was for supposedly this large corporation whose name I will not say for obvious reasons. And their whole process was really sketchy and nominal at best. They were very strict on the way that they wanted to approach things, and it was just really fishy. And so one thing that I will say about Upwork is, no, they have given me an opportunity to meet a full range of different people. And what I will say about it is I've saw the good and the bad already. Just there's been some really fishy people on there, and I've spoke about some of them on previous casts. And so this one I won't spend too much time about it. I just have another conversation about that, even though I had several conversations today. Tonight I have some tutoring to do. I do enjoy it. I am fascinated by Xamarin. It has impressed me very thoroughly, and I am looking forward to this session tonight. I've also finished the book. Let me go to it. It's called what was the name of this book? The book was, let's see. Let's go to overview. The Magic of Believing. And this is a book by Vic Johnson. This book is good. I mean, it presents the same information that's common everywhere. It's been repeated for at least 100 years in terms of like self-help and cognition, and then thinking about thinking. But this book does a good job with presenting the information in a very fresh way. I like his approach to book writing because he gets straight to the point in the book. He doesn't spend a lot of time trying to build up this momentum. He just tells it like it is, and he just kind of keeps it moving. One thing that I will say is that I got from this book, and this is what I normally do when I read these books. I typically get, once, like if I had to give a book a once over, I typically get one or two good points of feedback from the book, and just one or two constructive, what am I trying to say? One or two constructive things to implement, in my life. And so this book, I have the biggest thing that I got from it was belief and faith are essentially the ingredients to success. And yes, I know that sounds really cliche, and I know that is probably something that we've all heard, whether we heard it in church, whether we've heard it in whatever success book I want to name, whether it be James Allen all the way to Napoleon Hill, all the way to Bob Proctor, to Les Brown, to Zig Ziglar, to you name it. Everybody talks about belief everybody talks about faith. This book, like I said, it presented those two concepts in a very unique fashion because really he described them in the work that they really work hand in hand. And I know I spent some time in the previous tape talking about it, but I think because it's on my mind today, I want to spend a little bit more time on it, because what I've just pondering some of the, because I listened to some, like the rest of it today. I went to the park with my son and listened to the rest of the tape, and he really kind of deals with conviction and confidence. That's another way to say belief and faith, and how faith is essentially that act of belief. It's like a conscious action of the belief that you may have. And this is what I got from the work. And so I am in relationship to entrepreneurship, in relationship to all of the struggles that I've faced to date. It's really dawned on me that, or in places where I've had a lack of faith, which is it's interesting, because I've always had larger than life beliefs, but I didn't have the faith to back it, and thereby the rituals to back the belief in order to see things manifest. Another thing in the book he talked about is the magic of the what if. And, dealing with larger than life beliefs, especially if it pushes. So for example, if I have my be, do, have list, and I am going to be shaping my beliefs around them, or at least formulating new beliefs and challenging existing beliefs, especially if they're limiting beliefs, so that I can really move in this new direction. And so the question, the what if question, he says to use as a tool, especially if the belief is really larger than life, or it's too much to believe, because. And then he had he excuse me, he asked or created a scenario. As you can tell, my energy is just kind of like, I'm looking forward to this jog that I'm about to go on, because this is about to pump me up for this next part of my day. I just got off my full-time job, which is, raising my son, which is a very exciting and draining and uplifting and great learning experience. And, I have this audacity to want to be a successful entrepreneur at the same time. Can you believe that? And, some limiting beliefs that I have is that, this is going to require a lot of energy, a lot of time. And some of that stuff I've confirmed already. But really, that really is a result, the belief that it's going to take a lot of energy, really, as Vic Johnson says, is neutral. The only thing that what polarizes that fact is my perception or my belief about myself, which is that somehow, because I have to spend so much time and effort doing it, that somehow it's negative, like I'm going to miss something, or I'm not going to be successful because I don't spend enough time, or whatever the case may be. And so this is why reading books similar to that, to the magic of belief, is important. And I actually today I queued up, because I finished that book, and I have about 2 more books to go before the end of the week. 3. I want to do 4 max, but I definitely want to do about 3 or 4 books a week. And so again, having the audio book is a fantastic way to consume a large amount of information for me. It works for me because that's the kind of learner I am. I'm a communicator. I tend to pick things up either via communication or like audio, or by doing. So it's a great way for me to consume a large amount of information. My goodness, I'm riding through Decatur, and I'm, again, really impressed with what I see. And so I really like riding through here at this time of day. So it is, what did I say the day's date? Let's see. It is November the 7th. I have about 21 days, 21 to 20, about 21 to 25 days to meet a goal that I have. And I always place this goal. This is just going to be something that let me slow down. I have a goal that I want to meet, and I have some limiting beliefs around that has pushed me to this point, which is just the time and energy that's required in order to make the goal, because it has a certain financial, it has a certain point financially that I want to meet. It has a certain point, and just in terms of my social life, and so these are some of the things that are some of the reasons why I'm inundating myself with all of this information. Yesterday evening, I was thinking that I spend way too much time thinking about just negative situations concerning women. And today I'm continuing that in terms of just my thought process around just the negative scenarios that I have. And this goes right in line to what I was just talking about in terms of limiting beliefs, or just how I've been thinking in general, because it's been my primary thought. And so if the two books by Vic Johnson didn't do anything else, it helped me to see that I have a thought, or a series of thoughts, especially concerning women, especially concerning money, that have lended itself to creating essentially my negative, my current reality, which, if I were to be completely honest, isn't that bad. But I'm just, again, I have some cojones, so to speak, to want more out of life. And so, I want more out of this life that I have, and I'm willing to sacrifice ways that I have been living in order to have that. And so, like I said, these two books have really shown me that at the core of all of the negative so-called situations and events and experiences in my life are these thoughts that are essentially negative and destructive by nature, that have to do with money and that have to do with women. And so I have work to do to clean those up. Getting to my projects, I have spending some time. Shouts out to my client, the social media filmmaker. That project up here, it seems that we're going to be starting that project up here shortly. And I had a conversation with him today, and I appreciate him in his honesty for just kind of telling me straight up that this is a risk that he's taking, and that he is depending and trusting me to provide a solution that will meet his need. And, I want to take a moment to speak about that a little bit, because I think that is essentially the key to success. Taking those risks. I think it was Les Brown what is his name? Steve Harvey, actually, that said there was a message that I had heard, like YouTube, if you type in motivational speeches, and I do this in the morning, listen to about 20-30 minutes of motivation, inspiration in the morning. That's a healthy habit for you all, if you're listening, if you're interested. And I actually need to pick that back up and do it more. Like I've looked at my schedule, and I've saw that there's, I do have time in the morning and in the evening for my power hours, so to speak. Maybe I do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, but it's just building myself up, visualization, building myself up. So anyway, Steve Harvey spoke about taking a risk and making excuses, and he says that no matter what, that if you really want to see your true potential and live your life in the way to which you find what your truest potential is, then you're going to have to go to that cliff, whatever those fears are, which represents that cliff in your life that has stopped you, that has caused you to back up. And he says that what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to jump. And he says that the first time you jump, your parachute may not open, it may not function properly, and you may scrape your knees. You might bust your behind. You might get some scrapes. You might get some bumps. You might get some bruises. But what happens is you'll see over time that as you continue to jump, as you continue to position yourself and, have those conversations that have scared you, to place yourself in the positions that you have been afraid to place yourself in, to meet new people, to put your hopes and dreams and to connect with other people, to allow them to help you to see them, you'll see that it's only really a matter of time before that parachute opens. Before that website gets complete, before that app gets complete, before, you meet the person you want in terms of your emotional, mental, personal life. And so I'm saying that to say that this guy who that I've been talking to, he's really genuine. And I feel his pain in terms of, not necessarily pain, but I understand where he's coming from in terms of, just anxiety. And it takes a big person to make a decision like this, because he doesn't know me outside of my references, outside of my conversation, outside of dreamthinkdesign.com. He doesn't know me. And for him to make essentially to make that jump shows that he's willing to do what it takes in order to bring his idea from out of his mind, from out of the imagination that he has, to reality. And he's linking up with someone, fortunately, who has an immense amount of experience in order to do this. And so that conversation was really encouraging, especially coming off of the phone with the really sketchy individual that I was on the phone. And it wasn't actually on the phone, it was like over Hangouts. It was just a weird interview. Like, the whole thing was just sketchy. And, to come from that, for somebody to say, you know what, I believe in you, I trust you, I'm willing to see this thing through, let's make it work. That to me, that shows that a person is qualified to really see and experience the talents that I have, and my goal is to fill my life, to fill my professional career with people like that, with people who, even if they don't necessarily know me per se, but because of my conversation, because of my professionalism, because of, my online presence, because of the meetings that we've had, that they submit themselves to my expertise, and they allow themselves to be blessed by my talents. And, I am going to surround myself with people like that, because the more people I have like that around me, the better off I'm going to be in terms of my professional career. Because ultimately, like I said in one of my other casts, this, software to me isn't so much about the money anymore. I'm in a position financially to where, I can meet my basic needs, and I'm grateful for that. I do have larger than life desires, and I want more out of life, but it's not just about money to me anymore. It used to be about money to me, and because I used to make a lot of bad decisions with money. But again, just kind of looking at my life and understanding what it means to have wealth and prosperity, I want to be much like the rubbish heap. Right? So the rubbish heap is the trash can, or the landfill, where there are a lot of quote unquote trash there. But just as the saying goes that one man's trash is another man's treasure, over time the landfill amasses this massive wealth that is essentially unconsummated fortunes. And so, I want to be much like that in my life, where instead of being a victim of unconsummated fortune, I want to consolidate my wealth not just paper, not just pieces of paper with dead hypocrites on it, but actual people. I had a conversation with an individual I think it was a young man that I advised in terms of his business. And I was telling him maybe a few months ago when he was starting his business that I said, you know what, people are more valuable than money. I'll say it one more time. People are more valuable than money. Where money can only get you so far. It's only accepted where it's accepted, and the conversion rate isn't always consistent. There is an unimmeasurable amount of value and wealth in a person. And so in terms of the kinds of wealth that I want to consume, or the kinds of wealth that I want to consolidate, is the wealth in myself, the wealth that I find in the people that surround me, right? And the people, places, and things that I have. So it's not just objects, it's specifically people. And so I'm spending time finding, and this is again, I spoke about, and I speak about Upwork. I've been speaking about Upwork a lot in these last few tapes, and and I've kind of it's like I got a love-hate relationship with Upwork, with Upwork, because Upwork gives me the opportunity to interview people. Where people think they're interviewing me, that's not what's happening. I interview them. And I see, I have always been blessed with the spirit of discernment. I've always been able to discern what intentions people have, even if it's an interview like it was today, like it was all typing, but I could just discern that just the people behind that, they have different intentions. And even another client, Pentious, this their whole process of bringing me on board. I'm seeing that it's not exactly the people behind the paperwork they may not necessarily be a good fit. So another healthy habit that I want to share is, whenever, as a freelancer, and this is what I've done, and especially these days, is I don't just pay attention to a contract. The contract shows me the mindset of the person behind the paper. I spend more time thinking about the people. How do I have good conversations with these people? Do they seem to be understanding? Are they trustworthy? Do they show that they can have faith in my ability? Do they listen? Especially because I'm being paid, because they're desiring my expertise. Can they listen to me? Can they accept what I say? Because it's not just what I say, it's because this is what I've accumulated over all these years, and I study day in and day out technology, whether it be mobile technology, web technology. This is what I do. And so, can a person listen? And then can they stand beside the decision that I'm making? I had a conversation yesterday evening with a client. And this is for this AV app. And, it seems to be it has a lot of good potential. And, the conversation went well. I just can tell that, the take from the person that was interviewing me based on the technology, they appear to be, they have these ideas in their mind about how things should go. And, it may not necessarily work that way once we actually put it into play, because there's no such thing as it's a cut and dry software. Here's what I'll say about AngularJS. Let me just put this on the mic one time about AngularJS, and for any other technology that is quote unquote standard. Now, I've always been, and this is what I wanted to say. I'll just say this, because AngularJS is not, for people to say that it's the standard JavaScript framework, I just want to say that that's BS. I say that, JavaScript there are ways to organize JavaScript in a fashion that it's readable and that it gets the job done. JavaScript is used for the following things. JavaScript is used to pull data from the server. It's used to make things work to control elements on the screen, and then it's used to do basic client-facing logic that enables the controls to do what they're supposed to do. Like eventing and things of that nature. You can parse the DOM with JavaScript. You can do a lot of great things. And with these days, with the advent of IndexedDB and client and local storage, you can essentially stand up a whole application in JavaScript. But to say that AngularJS, the supposed micro framework, is supposedly the industry standard, and that the industry should conform to AngularJS, I think so many people have bitten off the potato chip and drank the Kool-Aid to the point where it's absurd. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, I will use AngularJS, and I'm fine, but the conversation that I had last night, and they might listen to this, and I'll still stand behind what I'm saying, because the person asked me, about doing client side, and and this is what people say, and I'm just gonna say this on this because I'm just so sick of hearing people say this, that let's use AngularJS because it's supposed to be the standard, and what if we bring new people on and if we don't use AngularJS, then we won't be able to ramp them up to speed on the JavaScript quickly. That's BS. And I actually said that last night. And I'm pretty sure the person probably was thinking like, wow. But I was like, first of all, JavaScript is JavaScript. If we want to organize JavaScript in a way that's readable, then let's not use Angular, because Angular does a whole bunch for us that we just most people never use, and they don't even use it correctly. So I think that if any JavaScript developer or any software developer that has knowledge of JavaScript will be able to pick up any JavaScript use just fine, whether it's like a big God script file with a bag of function in it like it used to be even before jQuery, and then it morphed more into event-based programming with the advent of jQuery. Then it morphed more into controllers and views or view models with the advent of JavaScript MVC. And then when Angular came along, before Angular was YUI and Backbone, and before that, it was something else. And so, and so nowadays with the advent of Angular tries to push a MVC-esque architectural approach using JavaScript, and then they also have the concept of services, and they also have the concept of namespaces and includes, and they have a controls namespace, and then they move with the ECMA 6 to more of a TypeScript oriented design. And I just think that they're just really making things complicated. I remember, and then there's React, and React is just all event based, because it tries to mock Node in the whole event based programming, when really it's let's just. And so the point that I'm trying to make is, yes, I know all of these libraries, and I have no problem with using them. But don't ask me, or make a statement saying that we want to use some standard that if somebody gets hit by a bus, that's like that is like the most common statement. Well, what if you get hit by a bus and when somebody else? Well, first of all, don't wish that I get hit by a bus. Wish that I have long life. How about that? And then so if we think about how to create something that fits your model, let's not just use cookie cutter, copy pasted designs and architectures. That is the anti-pattern when you talk about enterprise projects. And whether this person agrees with it or not, it's the truth. Now, again, I said in another cast that people disagree with the truth all the time. But the truth of the matter is don't just pick a JavaScript library, or don't just use ASP.NET MVC. Don't even use C# if you don't truly understand the problem that you're trying to solve first. That's design. Okay? And this is what I try to convey these days, but what I'm seeing is that a lot of developers, and this is not this person, I don't want this person to think, if they're listening, I don't want them to think that this next statement is about them. But what I will say is that most developers have been institutionalized to believe in wholeheartedly, even religiously, in these libraries and frameworks, and it shows their inability to solve problems. Okay, programming, if we go all the way back, the whole point of programming was to optimize, was to essentially solve problems that would have taken human beings way long, to solve them. It's a problem solving mechanism that we as humans use to optimize our life. And so let's not just choose a design pattern, okay? Or let's not just choose a framework like Angular. Let's not just choose an ARM, for example, or don't just go with, MVC. If your program should be really using more of an MVVM, or it should be using more of a PAC, or some other kind of design pattern that fits it. Don't just go with aspect-oriented design when you really need to be going with command handling design pattern. Don't just go with an abstract factory when really you need to just be going with just a provider or something like that. Like, let's actually, and I will consider myself a designer, or an architect at heart, because I look at a problem and then I try to understand that problem deeply. And then I look at, okay, how can we go about solving this problem, in a way that doesn't cost, that is cost effective, and that it also has the quality that I desire, essentially, for this product. And so, more and more I'm seeing these days, people are running from actually thinking about how to solve the problem. And more these days, I'm saying that we as developers are moving towards, let's just go with this framework. It's supposed to work, and most people know it, so let's just do it, without actually looking at the framework. Like, what are we actually using it for? If you're just needing something to organize JavaScript in a fashion on your client side that, that doesn't eventually make it into this big God script class, or, with one script file with all of these functions in it, because, and all you really need is just a place to be able to organize it in a fashion so that you can make your Ajax calls, then why would you use Angular? Why would you use Angular? And why? And don't just tell me because it's standard. Because just because a person say they got Angular experience does not mean that if this particular implementation of Angular for the product that you have, that they'll be able to understand it. Because I can't tell you how many projects I've been on where people have implemented Angular and it's been their own fangled way of implementing Angular. And so I just wanted to say that. And I'm glad, I'm happy for the people who made Angular, and they're working on it, and React is out, and people just get caught up with these design patterns. They just get caught up, and nobody actually knows JavaScript anymore. Like, how many people actually know JavaScript? Like, actually know JavaScript? Like, what's the difference between set timeout and set interval? Like, actually know what's the difference of creating a partial class and using prototype? Like what's the difference between parsing the DOM and saving a JavaScript object on the DOM via JavaScript? What's the process of doing DHTML? Like the base meat and potatoes of JavaScript. Like what's actually behind the Ajax call? How does Ajax work in JavaScript? So before we start talking about standards, let's actually look at it and let's actually talk about, okay, well, what's the problem? And really most projects, ladies and gentlemen, whether people want to believe me or not, is, their use of Angular is incorrect. And, what most projects need, especially those who don't actually require any single page application development, because Angular lends itself well to that model. But even then, you could still do it without the use of Angular. And it be still straightforward and easily understood, especially if there's documentation. See, that's the thing that I'm starting to see also that I want to say is people are lazy. They don't want to actually document their code. They don't want to actually create a functional spec. They don't want to create a technical specification. They don't actually want to leave any trace that they actually developed the application behind. They just want to use a bunch of frameworks and put it all together poorly and then say that they use Angular on their next project so that they can say they got experience on it. That's not me, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not anti-Angular. I'm anti-laziness. I like to think about the problem and I like to solve the problem. And I document it. And I'm very thorough. So, hopefully this doesn't piss a lot of people off. But if it do, who cares? I would love to have a conversation. Maybe some people who disagree could leave a comment. And let's jump on one of these casts together and let's talk about it, because I seriously doubt that there is a valid argument to against what I'm saying, because it's all about problem solving. It's about solving the puzzle. And if we're just gonna try to plaster these bulky frameworks on basic problems, then we'll, I guess I'll say this: I'll keep a job, because a lot of the work that I had, especially when I started off my career, was cleaning up bad code. So, those were the days where ReSharper was in. I guess ReSharper is still in, but, I don't see it as much. All the Redgate products are in now. But anyway, so yeah, I would love to talk to who wants to talk to me about it. But, to use Angular on every project shows that people are lazy. Okay. People are just lazy and they lack creativity. And so I'll say it. And, and so shouts out to, again, the social media filmmaker for taking a risk. I appreciate you if you're listening to this, and that we're going to create a great product together. And for anybody who disagrees about my comments about JavaScript, I dare you to text me or comment, because I would love to talk to you. And for all of the other listeners, especially the ones that listen to these because of my talks about entrepreneurship, I want to tell you this, just like my father has always told me, anytime he caught me keeping my head down or finding me depressed or down, he would ask the question. He was like, "Hey, son." I say, "What's going on, Pop?" He would say, "Man, do me this favor." And I'd be like, "Well, what's the favor?" He would be like, "Take your head and raise it." Until the next time.